Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We've emerged from the dense, lethal jungles of Operation Starlight and stepped into the blistering, shifting sands of North Africa. By 1981, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi had become the agency's primary antagonist in the Mediterranean, from state-sponsored terrorism to regional expansionism. Libya was a thorn that Washington wanted pulled, but a direct invasion was off the table. Instead, the agency looked to the exiles, the dissidents, and the neighboring borders to light a fire that would consume the Tripoli regime from the inside out. This was the Desert Warriors. This was Operation TIPPICANOE. To topple a dictator, the agency had to turn the desert into a conveyor belt for revolution. Operation TIPPICANOE was a covert action program authorized by the Reagan administration to provide military and financial support to the National Front for the Salvation of Libya. A quote from a declassified 1982 CIA intelligence estimate. The vulnerability of the Gaddafi government increases in direct proportion to the military effectiveness of the NFSL forces operating from the periphery. End quote. The agency established a logistics hub in the neighboring country of Chad, using the border as a staging ground for caravan runs that smuggled anti-tank missiles and small arms into Libyan territory. A quote from a memo by Director William Casey. We must ensure that the opposition has the tools to make the cost of Gaddafi's adventures in the Sahel prohibitive. S-A-H-E-L. I think it's Sahel. End quote. The archives reveal the Chad border logistics logs showing that the agency utilized Land Rovers equipped with specialized sand tires and long-range fuel tanks to traverse the trackless Tibesti Mountains, T-I-B-E-S-T-I. In the declassified release, documents confirm that the CIA used satellite links to provide real-time movement data of the Libyan 9th Armored Division to rebel commanders in the field. The logs show the agency coordinated with French intelligence to conduct nighttime airdrops of medical supplies and communications gear into the southern Libyan desert using unmarked C-130 transports. A quote from a 1983 State Department telegram. Operation TIPPICANOE represents the most significant effort to date to provide a viable military alternative to the current Libyan leadership through the mobilization of external opposition forces. End quote. The declassified files indicate the CIA established a training facility in Sudan where Libyan defectors were taught the use of anti-tank sabotage techniques to disable Soviet-made T-55 armored units. During the 1980s, the agency utilized currency injections, flooding the Libyan black market with millions in counterfeit money to destabilize the national economy and spark civil unrest in Tripoli. The archives reveal the Camel Corpse Project, an experimental program that used traditional nomadic caravans to smuggle encrypted radio transmitters past Libyan coastal checkpoints. While the weapon shipments are now public, the absolute heaviest redactions in the release appear in the optical distortion specs and the non-human combatant manifest. In the declassified files, nearly 900 pages of the 1984 Southern Sector operational audit are completely blacked out, hiding what many believe was the true advantage. Why is the Mirage Protocol still classified top secret? Get ready for the theory of the sand mirage. Speculation suggests Operation TIPPICANOE used invisibility cloaks to hide rebel tanks. The theory claims the redactions hide the optical distortion specs from 1984, alleging the agency deployed light-bending panels that use the desert's own heat shimmer to make an entire rebel column invisible to the Libyan Air Force, and the black bars mask the refractive index formulas. What if the support wasn't for humans? A dark rumor suggests the CIA was funding a desert species to attack the Libyan army. The theory claims the redactions in the non-human combatant manifest hide a program where the agency crossbred desert hyenas with high intelligence traits to act as biological landmines, with the black bars masking the aggression trigger protocols. Hidden behind the ink of the atmospheric research section, some claim the agency used orbital mirrors to focus sunlight into a beam of fire to incinerate the colonel's personal compound. Looking at the blacked out archaeological survey logs, theorists argue the agency found an ancient weapon buried under the dunes. The voice of the sand theory posits that the redactions in the PSYOPs files hide the use of subsonic waves that made Libyan soldiers hear the voices of ghosts. Paranoid whispers regarding the blacked-out chemical aerosol manifest suggest the CIA sprayed thirst gas over Libyan bases, a substance that made soldiers believe they were dehydrating instantly regardless of how much water they drank. Some gossip suggests the redactions in the meteorological annex proved the CIA could create artificial sandstorms to mask rebel movements, and the black bars hide the weather control codes. In the infrastructure sabotage files, massive redactions cover what some say is a synthetic bacteria. People allege a germ ate through Libyan oil pipelines in seconds and was released. The hollow dune theory argues that the redactions prove the agency built underground hangars that could house 1,000 men beneath the shifting sands. Lastly, some whisper that the redactions hide the fact that the CIA made a deal with desert nomads who aren't from this earth, and the black bars mask their interstellar trade agreements. I kind of like that one. It makes me think of Dune, the original Dune from the 70s, with the giant worm and the little girl in the robe. Anyway, was Operation Tippicanoe a success? Tactically, it was a complete stalemate. While the Desert Warriors won several significant skirmishes in the south, they never reached Tripoli. The Libyan army remained too well funded and too brutal. Strategically, it was a slow burn success. Tippicanoe bled the Libyan treasury dry and forced Gaddafi to retreat from his expansionist goals in Chad. Operation Tippicanoe proved that you don't always have to kill a tyrant to neutralize them. Sometimes you just have to keep them busy in the sand. Wink, wink. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the Desert Fire redefined the logistics of arid zone warfare. For instance, long-range desert logistics, the perfection of supply chains that could operate over 500 miles from the nearest paved road. Non-attributable arms funneling, the development of ghost networks for moving thousands of tons of military hardware without a paper trail. Remote sensing integration, the first large-scale use of satellite intelligence to guide indigenous rebel forces in real time. And heat signature masking, breakthroughs in thermal shielding for vehicles, making them harder to detect by infrared sensors. Operation Tippicanoe shows us that the agency views the desert not as a barrier, but as a theater of shadow and flame. As the files reveal, some fires never truly go out. They just wait for the wind to shift. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us next time. We're going to be examining the incapacitating agent, also known as 3-quineuclidenylbenzylate, also known as BZ, which is what I'm going to call it primarily. Let's call it BZ. In the Cold War arms race, the agency looked for a way to win a war without firing a shot. BZ was the terrifying mind fogger, a chemical that could turn an entire army into a mass of hallucinating ghosts for days. We'll uncover the aerosol trials. We'll look at the subject behavior logs, the long-term effect studies, and the moment the agency realized that sometimes the mind is the most dangerous battlefield of all. Join us next time for The Glass Mind. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.